Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in the world on the 4th of March of 2026. Today we have a lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And we can say that today another round of escalation, another wave of escalation occurred. And the most interesting and the most important updates of the previous 24 hours are taking place on the sea, on different seas and oceans. So first let's talk about the area between the Persian Gulf and the Sri Lanka. According to information we have, during the previous 24 hours, the US submarine attacked the Iranian ship. At least 101 people were missing and 78 were injured as a result of a submarine attack on an Iranian ship off the coast of Sri Lanka. So later, the Minister of War of the United States of America published this video where we can see the moments when the US submarine was attacking the Iranian ship. The moment a US submarine torpedoed the Iranian Navy frigate Iris Dana off the coast of Sri Lanka. As you can see, there were no chances for the ship to survive this heavy attack. Later, we received the report that this ship sank in the area of Sri Lanka. Another important update is the Iranians were also trying to attack the US ships in the area of the Arabian Sea. So this picture was published by different sources, and here we can see, and according to the pro-Iranian sources, Iran claims that it launched a missile strike on an American destroyer and set it on fire, which was later confirmed by data from NASA's heat map tracking fires. But when talking about the end of the 4th of March of 2026, we still haven't received anything. We're talking about pictures or videos that can confirm that this attack took place and that the destroyer was damaged or destroyed. Another important area is the Persian Gulf itself and the Strait of Hormuz. Currently, the situation here is critical. And today we received this very interesting video published by different sources, and here we can see the development and the evolution of the traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. So this picture shows the traffic from the 27th of February of 2026 till the 3rd of March of 2026. As you can see, at some point the traffic stopped completely. Probably at the beginning of blockade, several tankers managed to break through this area, but most of them were destroyed or damaged. The sources are saying that by the end of the 4th of March of 2026, at least 10 tankers damaged were recorded. Another important thing is that the United States of America promised to secure this area in coming days and to protect every single tanker that goes through this area. And for these purposes, the United States of America are going to continue attacking and destroying the Navy forces of the Iranians. For example, in this video, we can see the consequences of another attack that was carried out by the Americans, by the coalition. Here we can see that some combat ship was damaged and destroyed as a result of attack. But the destruction of these ships and the Navy forces of Iran doesn't mean, even total destruction of Navy forces doesn't mean that the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz will be secured, because the Iranians attack this territory from the coast, from positions, let's say, in the area of the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. So which means that it is going to be very difficult to discover the launching sites, positions, and to destroy them. So this is the situation in this area. And of course, the situation with the Navy, with the situation with all the ships, with tankers, forces, the states like United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and of course Bahrain, and of course Kuwait, to hold the production of the gas, LNG, and of course to hold the production of different oil products, which will cause significant damage to their economies. During the previous 24 hours, we continue receiving different updates from this area. We start receiving lots of pictures, lots of comparisons of satellite satellite images about the situation in this area, and as of the end of the 4th of March of 2026, we know for sure that several air defense systems of THAAD type and several radars for these systems were damaged or even destroyed as a result of the Iranian attacks. As for the United States of America and the coalition, they continue bombing and attacking the infrastructure, and mainly the military infrastructure of Iran through mountain area between the northwestern and the southern parts of Iran. Furthermore, the sources are saying that during the previous 24 hours, the coalition intensified their attacks in the western parts along the western border between Iran and Iraq, and the sources are saying that with these attacks, the coalition is trying to secure passages, to secure roads and corridors for Kurds to begin offensive operation deep inside of the territory of Iran. The United States and Israel carried out intensive airstrikes targeting Iranian military sites in Kurdish majority borders regions, including border posts, military bases, police stations, and facilities linked to Basij forces in cities such as Paveh and Sanandaj. Furthermore, I would like to remind you that we received a report that the coalition of political forces of Iranian Kurdistan asks security forces in Iranian Kurdistan to defect from the remnants of the Islamic Republic and ask the Kurdish citizens in the region to stay away from military and security sites for their security. So this is the situation in this area, and as we discussed, the ground and the military operation on the ground is inevitable, and most likely the first parts of the ground operation would be clashes between the Iranians and the Kurdish forces in the western part of Iran. But the question is whether the Iranians are ready for this or not, and most likely we will understand this in coming days. Now let's move further and let's talk about the Mediterranean Sea. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of very important updates. According to pro-Russian sources, according to the Minister of Transport of the Russian Federation, a Russian LNG tanker, Arctic Metagas, was attacked yesterday. And the Russians are saying that this ship was attacked, this tanker was attacked by Ukrainian forces. As of the end of the 4th of March of 2026, of course, the pro-Ukrainian sources, official channels, official sources haven't confirmed that they have anything related to the situation, but it seems that currently it doesn't matter because the Russians are preparing themselves before the next wave of massive missile, combined massive missile and drone attack, and according to different sources, this attack is going to take place during the upcoming night between the 4th and the 5th of March of 2026. The Russians most likely, according to Zelensky, will attack infrastructure that supports water supply in the region. Furthermore, the Russians will attack most likely the logistic and the transport infrastructure as well. Another important thing is the situation in the southern parts of Ukraine. We received a very interesting update. According to information we have, using significant number of Iran drones, the Russians attacked the city of Nikolaev, more precisely the railway station. As a result of attack, several trains were significantly damaged. In this video we can see probably the evacuation process and the people in this area were filming the situation. Furthermore, the sources are saying that a very strange inspection of Ukraine came to this area with the purpose to record the damages, and they were wearing a special suit for these purposes. And the sources are saying that it seems that the train was transferring some chemical things on the train that was attacked by Russia. Another important thing is that the Ukrainians between the 3rd and the 4th of March also carried out a massive drone attack in the direction of the territory of the Russian Federation. The Ukrainians were attacking the city of Volgograd, and the Ukrainians used lots of drones and 5 Flamingo missiles. The Russians managed to repel almost every single drone that was flying towards the city of Volgograd. Several drones were destroyed and their parts fell down on the city, and the city was pretty damaged. As you can see, but no damages, direct damages were recorded. At the same time, during the previous night and this morning, we received a very interesting information that one of the Ukrainian missiles of Flaming type managed to get the city by the name of Kirovo-Chepetsk. The Ukrainians attacked this facility, this plant, chemical plant, and here we can see the moments when the looted drone attacked these chemical plants, and the sources are saying that there was a very heavy explosion. As of the end of the 4th of March of 2026, we don't know for sure what kind of damage the Ukrainians managed to deal to this chemical plant, but we believe that in coming days we will get satellite pictures and we will understand exactly whether the Ukrainians managed to deal a significant damage or it's just a small attack and nothing more. So the Russians are preparing themselves before the beginning of another massive attack, and most likely this attack is going to be something like a test both for the Russians and for the Ukrainians, because of course the Russians may want to know whether the Ukrainians still have lots of missiles or not. But this attack could be postponed. This attack could be postponed by the Russian side if the Russians, the Ukrainians, and the Hungarians and the Slovakians are able to find a solution about the Druzhba pipeline. Today we received lots of reports. Today the Prime Minister Fico stated that he doesn't trust Zelensky anymore. Furthermore, the Minister of Foreign Affairs visited Moscow today. He had a meeting with the US authorities, and most likely they were talking about the Druzhba pipeline. And probably we are very close to the deal between Russia, Ukraine, the Slovakians and the Hungarians on this matter. And it seems that if this deal is achieved by these states, then most likely Russians will postpone their attacks on the energy infrastructure of Ukraine. So this is a very important question, not just for the Russians and for the Ukrainians. Today we received a report that the United States of America are going to cancel sanctions on Russian oil companies like Rosneft. More precisely, they're going to cancel sanctions on the company of Rosneft, which is located on the territory of Germany, which means that most likely the European countries are going to resume buying oil or gas from the territory of the Russian Federation, most likely through the Druzhba pipeline, and these things are happening due to a crisis that we can see right now in the territory of the Middle East, and it seems that this crisis is not going to finish very soon. Because, for example, today the Minister of War of the United States of America made lots of very interesting statements. The US has no response messages for Russia and China, which are calling for an immediate end to talks on Iran, said Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth. I have no messages for them, and they don't play a significant role here. Our problem is not with them, but with Iran's nuclear ambitions. So he's trying to tell us that most likely, despite calls from the Russian Federation and China, the United States of America will continue. Furthermore, according to Pete Hegseth, new American forces are arriving in the Middle East, and the operation against Iran will take as long as necessary. The US and Israel intend to establish full control over Iran's airspace in the coming days. The past days of the operation against Iran are just the beginning. The stockpiles of bombs available to the US are unlimited. So all these statements are telling us that the crisis in the Middle East is not going to end soon, and once again most of the Persian states have halted production of LNG and oil products, which means that Europe doesn't have any other option but to start buying oil and fuel from the Russian Federation, or to increase purchases of these products, of course, from the United States of America. But the sources are saying that the prices for energy resources in different states of Europe has been increased in 2 times. Now let's return back to Ukraine and let's continue. And first let's talk about the Zaporizhzhia direction, where the Russians continue their Orekhov offensive operation. During the previous 24 hours, additional changes on the ground were recorded to the west of the settlement of Zalizhnitne. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the end of the 2nd, this is the end of the 3rd, and this is the end of the 4th of March of 2026. The Russians improved their positions as we discussed during the previous video, and the Russians captured this stronghold. From the Furthermore, the Russians began offensive operation in the direction of the settlement of Charivna. During the previous 24 hours, lots of videos were recorded of how the Russians were buying this settlement with bombs. So we believe in coming days we will get additional changes. At the same time, the Ukrainians continue their counter-offensive operation in the direction of Uspenovka, but not everything is like the Ukrainian sources and pro-Ukrainian sources are describing. For example, we start receiving lots of updates from the territories that were colored a long time ago by different sources as the territories under control of Ukraine. For example, in this video we can see how the Russians were supporting their forces along the line of combat contact in this tree line. Yes, most likely these Russians are encircled, but the encirclement of these Russian forces doesn't mean that they are not able to get support and supply from the mainland. And this video we can see how Ukrainians were FPV droning Russians through these tree lines in the area of Privilio, which means that the Russians are saving their positions and their presence in this area despite the fact that the Ukrainians are counter-attacking with significant number of forces. And today lots of sources confirm that the Ukrainians are paying significant price for this counter-offensive operation. As for the Dobropolye direction, small changes were also recorded to the north of the city of Pokrovsk. In this video we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russian soldiers in this area. Based on this video we have adjusted the map because it seems that this tree line is under complete Russian control and that the Russians are keeping advancing further in the northern direction towards the settlement of Shevchenka. As for the Konstantinovka direction, it seems that the Russians were forced to stop their offensive operation for regrouping. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of videos of how Russians, more precisely FPV drone operators of the armed forces of the Russian Federation, were attacking positions of the armed forces of Ukraine. The Ukrainians, to stabilize the situation, somehow managed to bring additional forces to the south, and now the Russians are trying to attack these positions, and then, most likely, only then the Russians will repeat their attempt to attack once again. As for the Slaviansk direction, during the previous 24 hours, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly. We expected that the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation would confirm Russian complete control over the settlement of Druga, but nothing happened like this, so which means that the Russians are still clearing this territory, and most likely in coming days the Minister of Defense will confirm control over the settlement of Druga, and then the Russians will focus their attention on the settlement of Dibrovo, which is next to the settlement of Druga. And then Russians will continue offensive operation further in the southern directions with the purpose to attack the settlement of Alexandrovka from the southwest. But this is going to happen during the probably early or mid-spring military campaign and not today or tomorrow. As for the Slaviansk direction, during the previous 24 hours, nothing special was recorded. The same story about the Kharkiv direction, just several videos were published by pro-Russian sources. One of the videos took place in the area of the settlement of Malinovka and Chuguyev. Here we can see how the Russians, as a result of reconnaissance operation, managed to discover a temporary deployment point or a camp of the armed forces of Ukraine. And when the Russians discovered this territory, the Russians attacked this area immediately with Iskander with cluster rounds, cluster warhead. As a result of this attack, the camp was destroyed. As of the end of the 4th of March, we don't know for sure the exact losses from the Ukrainian side. Another important video is coming from area to the west of the city of Kharkiv. Here we can see that something was destroyed, and we can see smoke rising over the railways, over the railway station in the area of the settlement of Machenki and Nesteryanki. The sources are saying that the Russians attacked another object of energy infrastructure, and as a result of this attack, we see that this object was destroyed. And here we can see the consequences. And I would like to remind you once again that Zelensky himself and the different ministers of Ukraine stated that the Russians these days increased the number of attacks on Ukraine's logistic, railway stations and energy infrastructure. So just during the previous 24 hours, 2 attacks of this type were recorded, one of them in the area of the city of Kharkiv, and the second one on the railway station of the city of Nikolaev in the southern parts of Ukraine. As for the northeastern part of Ukraine and Sumy region, during the previous 24 hours, nothing special was recorded. And that's it for today. The Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.